Hello. So, what I have on today is a clusterfuck of all things to do with dogmatism, following cults, this whole fuck cardio kind of concept, and the importance of aerobic health, and pretty much everything that goes into making sure that the approach you take is a sustainable one and one that also looks into your health and not just the outer shell. Because if you look at a car, you can like paint it all you like, but if the cogs don't work, if the engine is faulty, that pretty car isn't going to go very far. So today I have on Danny Matranga, and he pretty much stands for the same stuff. So hello.
Hey,
What
thank you for having me on.
So, what is it that sparks your fire when, like, in a positive way, when it comes to helping people in the right way?
Yeah, especially in the fitness space, right? And I'm over here in America, you're over there in Australia, but I think universally across the world, one of the things that I see a lot of people living a life that could be improved if they were a little bit healthier. Here in America, one of the things that we really struggle with is we have people living with obesity. We have extremely high rates of cardiovascular disease. We have increased rates of anxiety and depression, especially post pandemic. And I look at something that comes very naturally to me, which is I love to exercise. I love to lift weights. It's improved my life. In a lot of those areas, and I think, hey, what better way to, give back to my fellow human being than to try to make exercise and training and improving your body, not just in the way it looks, but in what it can do and how it can help you with as many people as possible. Because I think that's what a lot of people need. And I think that's what I have to give. A lot of people operate from a place of what can I take? And I try to operate from this place of what can I give? And I feel like something that I'm just naturally passionate about is what a lot of people, especially here in America, really need. And that kind of lights my fire.
That's so true, because when people are just thinking about taking, they put out the most extreme methods that make it seem like, oh, here's something that has never existed before. This is what you need. And then that's when people fall into cults and they label themselves. And as soon as you label yourself, you find it so hard to detach from that label that you create stories for yourself that they're not true, but because you keep repeating it to yourself, they are true in your head. So it
Oh, yeah.
stops you from actually improving your life. Have you seen this, like, especially now past the pandemic and people trying to make money on the back end, do this even
Uh,
more?
Yeah, no, I mean, I feel like dogmatism and tribalism go hand in hand, and here in America, it's a political problem. It's it's not just a nutritional problem. Like we had some pretty serious issues politically with people diving down rabbit holes of misinformation, joining these crazy cult followings. It's wild what happens on the internet of American political Facebook, and like every other country in the world knows what we just went through politically because everybody on the world stage goes like, what the hell is going on in America? And I think that underscores people's inherent desire to want to belong to something and to want to be part of something. And what's really unfortunate is the fitness space offers a lot of that in a world where I think nuance and really tailoring your approach should be super individualized. But people want to be a keto power lifter or a vegan bodybuilder. I want to be in a camp. I want something to be an extension of my identity. I want to project to the world that I belong. This is my camp, because we have this evolutionary desire to be tribal. It's the reason that we made it here. 200,000 years as a species, we're not going to make it if we don't know how to stick together. But one of the big problems I see is some of the most dogmatic cult like sections of the fitness and nutrition space aren't particularly sustainable for the, 70% of Americans who don't even fucking exercise, right? And that's a problem because it's like, hey, I understand that you enjoy the ketogenic diet. I understand that it's changed your life and you think that it is like the second coming of Jesus in nutritional form. But, 70% of people in America don't exercise and have zero understanding of nutrition. And that's a really, really tough place to start. But because the people that join these clans and these tribes tend to be the loudest and the most enthusiastic, they often reach people very quickly. And a lack of nuance in the delivery can create worlds where, for example, I'll use keto as a kind of an example here, but all diets do this. If you are new to working out and you're trying to find a place to start, and your keto friend tells you this is the best way to do it, you got to try this, you got to try this, and you try it and you fail, maybe all that you gathered from that was that carbs are bad. And so now you take that carbs are bad onto the next thing you're going to try. And you try that and it doesn't work. Then you take one more thing. And before you know it, you're just like, everything's bad. All training is bad. I can't deal with this anymore. I quit. And so the tribes, even though we're drawn to them, I think that they've become problematic and that they really don't allow for a lot of nuance and they pollute the science of nutrition and training.
It's exactly what you said. Like someone could say this works, or they say something that could be completely correct for them, but then someone that doesn't understand those nuances will just pick out what they want to hear. Like that, because we have like a running away from fear mentality. As soon as someone says like carbs or something, and we know that carbs are our best friend, all of a sudden, oh no, I can't eat this, I can't eat that. Like I get people coming to me. This one's a big one. People linking other professionals, but I say that with inverted commas because it's like, okay, what exactly is this? It's just like Rob Wolf. I had someone link to me, Dave Asprey, the other day saying soy is the mother of all evils. Like, who are these people to trust and who are these people not to trust? And that's when it comes into, okay, if we're going to keep pulling coaches apart as well this is something that gets to me. Like, sometimes people are doing all they need to do and they actually need to take their calories really low. But then as soon as you see someone asking for other advice, like, oh, I'm currently on like 1,200 calories, and then everyone attacks that because they know that 1,200 calories isn't sustainable, but it might be what that person needs for this short period of time. And on the back end of that, they actually have a plan. Or fasted cardio. There are people that need to actually get out first thing in the morning to make it practical for them. And if they eat first thing in the morning, it might put them into a surplus, or it might mean that they actually don't get to go do the exercise. So we forget that nutritional certifications, having this like big MD on you, or I guess just having that book knowledge and research means nothing if you can't apply it practically to the individual. And this comes down to the whole cardio thing I really want to touch on, which is people do not understand how important or how underrated something like walking is, aerobic health, just the basic steps, because 12-week challenge, go hard, go home. Okay, but you said yourself that the general person is a working mom, is obese, gets tempted from friggin' just driving to work and seeing, hey, look, there's Macca's on the road. Like, we need to start somewhere, but everyone wants to start at the top of the ladder. So maybe you can dive into why it is so important to actually start with your health first and take those little steps, and why the aerobic movement is actually so important to ensure that everything else kind of clicks and you start to feel better, move better, and it just feeds into everything else.
Yeah, no. So let's just start with aerobic health and we'll communicate from just as factual a standpoint as we can. And again, I'll use America as an example. But the number one killer of men in America is cardiovascular disease. And as a general rule of thumb, there are few exercise modalities as effective at staving off long-term cardiovascular disease than aerobic or cardiovascular exercise. When you train aerobically, or when you do cardiovascular work, you train your heart, you train your mitochondria, you train your vascular system, and that is an extremely important part of your body. It is not to say that cardiovascular training is more or less important than anaerobic resistance training, but one of the things the fitness industry has done is it's really demonized cardiovascular exercise from a health enhancing standpoint, right? If fat loss is your primary goal, cardiovascular exercise is important, but it's not more important than resistance training. If health is your goal, there's no shortage of studies that show increased cardiovascular activity is beneficial for your longevity. And we know that one of the best predictors of long-term health is actually your VO2 max. And so we have a lot of data that we can look at and go, hey, being aerobically fit is good for your health. But to your point, that doesn't mean you have to get out and go on a run. It doesn't mean you have to just absolutely destroy your body. You can do something extremely simple like going on a walk, which is going to elevate your heart rate probably into a low enough threshold that you're training aerobically. It's extremely accessible regardless of your schedule, your socioeconomic status, whether you have a ton of time or not. Pretty much every single one of us could go on a walk. There's also a ton of correlative data that shows that walking, particularly outside, is good for reducing anxiety, balancing your mood, and increasing creativity. So there's a million and one good reasons to go for a walk. And I think what you hit on with the challenges is people have this desire to go balls to the wall, all in, and then they burn themselves out. And I'm a big believer that when it comes to your fitness, you need to have habits that are very much locked in place. And starting, when we look at habit formation, starting small is really valuable. And so one of my favorite anecdotes for this is from the book Atomic Habits by James Clear. And he actually shares a story of somebody who read his book and he went to the gym, but he would only go to the gym for a maximum of 5 minutes. He would set a timer, go to the gym for 5 minutes and leave. But 5 minutes was a short enough time period that he went like every day for a month. And then he bumped it up, bumped it up, bumped it up. And even though that seems kind of ridiculous, he was able to build a daily habit of exercise. And so even though we know that 5 minutes isn't enough, it's the practice of committing to something. And I think that pretty much every single one of us, whether you're listening to this right now, could probably at some point get up and just go on a walk. Like when I listen to podcasts, I go on a walk. I have a dog, so I go on lots of walks. You know, if you're struggling to find where to start, like we've talked about, your aerobic health is wonderfully important for your longevity, for your performance, for your well-being. And going on a walk is a free, extremely easy way to work on it. No matter how deconditioned or how fit you are, a walk can be really effective.
Something that I've started incorporating with as many of my girls as possible is people sit at their desk during their work break and eat, and they're eating in a stressful environment. Not only is this going to cause gastric distress because they're eating in a sympathetic state, aka when you're stressed, you can't digest because they're opposing systems. You're either stressed or you're resting and digesting. So I really encourage them for so many benefits. Like they're getting away from their work environment, mental health, they're improving their digestibility, they're improving the way that their body actually then assimilates the food, improving metabolism, and actually improving their glucose, aka carbohydrate tolerance, because when you move, your body, like you can even stretch and it does the same thing. If you know my mentor Luke talks about the fact that any type of muscular contraction, which also includes stretching, induces there's this transporter on the muscles that allows carbs to move in. So it actually sensitizes your body to use those carbs more. So it helps your body pretty much use the food that you just used. Anyway, back to what I was saying. If you can think of ways to make your environment work for you. So if you're stressed out during lunch and you have a lot of work to do, why would you work during your lunch break? You need to actually put yourself first. Realize that this is your lunch break. You weren't born to just work your way to your grave. You need to put your health first, and you need to actually, going back to the habits, I actually am starting to talk about this a lot, and I put it into my other posts because I realized habits are the foundation, they are the starting point, but they actually aren't the be all and end all. Like, habits fail because we live and die hard by the habits and the thick cables that we've, if you think of habits as cables, they get thicker and thicker through practice and through the years of living. And as we try to get new cables, get new habits, shift those habits, those thick cables are still there. They're still residing there. You can easily relapse, and you can easily self-sabotage once you relapse. And then those thin cables, they're still fresh. They can melt away. So yeah, okay, habits are the foundation to any type of success, especially realizing you need to start small. But the general person will be like, 5 minutes, what's that? That's nothing. I'm just going to go back to my old lifestyle. Like, people want to do too much at once when you can't even walk and chew gum at the same time. Like, you need to start off with what you can do. I don't actually say progress, not perfection. I say manageable, not perfect. You need to make it manageable for you, because unless it's manageable, you're not going to focus on progress, because you can have something completely out of your wheelhouse. You can't hold the basket because there's too much load there. You need to actually take things out of there with what you can carry at the moment to the journey. And then as you get stronger along the way, you can actually start adding more into your basket and having more strength and probably having more technical skill as you move along the way. So when it comes to habits, check in with yourself. I'm actually creating this new thing with my girls where they get a glass jar and you write every single win on it and you put it into the glass jar, because they come to me when they struggle. They come to me when they feel like a mess. You don't come to me with wins. You don't come to me with things that make you feel good. You keep it to yourself. And if all you do is talk about the struggles and emphasize the struggles, you forget all of those wins, and that makes it so easy to revert. So come to me with the wins, come to yourself with the wins, realize them and ask yourself, okay, cool, I actually did what I said I was going to do. I kept my promise to myself. How does that make me feel? Realizing how it makes you feel and how it adds to your life, to your relationship with your partner, your kids, your work, how it helps you show up for life, helps you go back to those thin cables once you revert. Because no, I don't like feeling this way. I remember I felt this, and this when I was doing these cables. So now you're shifting your habit back to the person you desire to be. So I guess now this comes back to the whole identity thing again, and how important identity plays a role in this. So when it comes to the identity, I guess, yeah, I'll let you talk a little bit more on that, because that's something you talk about a lot, like clinging yourself to something and the identity you give yourself to be able to move forward.
Yeah, and I think like we look at tribes in the nutrition space as like, I'm a power lifter, I'm a bodybuilder, I'm a CrossFitter, or I'm a vegan person, I'm a keto person, I'm a macro counter. And, you know, these are identities and camps that people in our space like to put themselves into. But what about the people that we're trying to help who go, I'm a fat person, I'm not a fit person. You know, I'm not like those people. I could never be like that. And one of the things we need to do as an industry is we need to make it possible for, or make it more likely for those people to eventually shift their identity over to, hey, I am going to become a fit person. I'm working my way there slowly. And, you know, I don't think the way you do that is by going from I'm a fat person to I'm a keto CrossFitter. It's a very big jump. And like you said with the cables, you're going to need to attach some cables along the way to make that sustainable. And so focusing on small wins, I think, is perhaps one of the best ways to work on behavior change, habit change, or even identity change, and highlighting the things that you're doing that are casting a vote for the person that you want to be. So it's the behaviors that I'm doing that are aligned with who I want to be. Can I write those down and put them in this jar, like you said? And when I do make behaviors, or do I exhibit behaviors that aren't aligned with who I want to be, can I give myself the grace of acknowledging that that doesn't necessarily set me back to zero. People will totally overlook their positive stuff and absolutely hammer themselves when they fuck up. And in that hammering, they then backslide. And you know this when coaching people. It's like, hey, you know, it's okay. You went over your macros on one day. Just like get back to it tomorrow. Or hey, you missed a workout. That's fine. Just get back to it tomorrow. And then the next email is, yeah, I missed my macros on Friday and I just fucking imploded Saturday and Sunday. I went on a huge binge and it was a nightmare, but I'm ready to start again. And it's like, and so we have such a hard time with failure. People have such a hard time with failure that when they do make mistakes, they oftentimes just completely implode. And so finding ways to normalize small mistakes and then getting back on track while also celebrating small wins, because small wins add up. It's all about compounding. Everything that we do in fitness is compound interest at work. Small deposits over time yield massive returns, but it seems really insignificant when you're talking about one workout, one walk, one good meal choice, one decision to have nuts and jerky at the gas station instead of chips and soda. Like that, all those small things add up. And I think that when we talk about helping people stay away from camps and dogmatism, we need to stop celebrating the all or nothing mentality and start being a little bit more positive about the small steps, small behavior change mentality, because the place where you get to keep your results is probably the place where you have to make the least sacrifices. The place where you can get them, but you don't always keep them, is usually where you make a shit ton of sacrifices and then you just blow up. And like we all know those people at the gym that were like, oh yeah, I did a bikini show and then I got hella shredded and then I just fucking gained a bunch of weight and I don't even work out anymore. And it's like, well, why? Because the behaviors that you had to implement to reach that goal were so ridiculously unsustainable. It just burnt you out on the whole thing. And you know, a health first approach, whether you're a bodybuilder, an athlete or competitor, or just a gym goer, a health first approach is saying, I'm going to exercise my entire life. And what that means is if I'm going to power lift from 20 to 40, I'm going to program for myself in a way that doesn't leave me with crippling back pain from 40 to 60. If I'm going to do bodybuilding from 20 to 35, I'm going to use anabolics and supplements in a way that doesn't destroy my liver so I have a shitty life when I'm 50. A health first approach it still absolutely allows you to pursue whatever your goals may be without losing sight of the long term, and you have to make small steps to do that.
People are too quick to want immediate gratification, and they don't realize that like exercise is anti-aging. It is anti-aging. Look at people who've been like training since a younger age and they're in their 40s, they're in their 50s, and they don't look their age and they're able. And then look at people who are in the street, they have the worst, I will say kyphotic, but what I'm talking about is their neck is forward, they're hunched, they look like the hunchback of Notre Dame because they didn't look after their bodies in a way that actually makes them more function. Like, this is another thing that I see a lot in the fitness space. There are so many demonized words. Like someone will say they're more functional. Oh, everyone's going to attack this person because they use the words functional. But no, like functional is life. The aerobic system is life. And something that Luke always says as well, muscle nerds, is the aerobic system is your life pathway. When you're sitting down, you're meant to be using oxygen. You're meant to be burning fat. When you're stressed out, stress, health, we talked about health. When you're stressed out, if your body isn't healthy, you are not able to burn fat the way that you should. And this is also where that whole aerobic stuff comes in, because if you're not aerobically fit, your oxygen VO2 max, just like Danny said, your oxygen capacity is going to be down and you can't oxidize, aka burn fat, burn energy the way you should, which is when he mentioned the mitochondria, if your aerobic system isn't good, your cardio system isn't good. So you need to stop demonizing these things. Look at the little steps. What can you do with what you have right now? Everybody can take a walk. Everybody can do more steps in the day, like park further away. You need to I actually call this the buffer zone. So people like jam packing their schedules with little leeway before or after. But if you actually leave a little bit of gap before or after, you're not as rushed, as stressed, and you can take your time to add a little bit of a walk in and not park right at the door because you need to be at an appointment 2 minutes ago. And I actually really want to talk on this thing before I ask you the next part, is this mentality. Because you mentioned, oh, so cardio is bad, let's just lift weights. Questions all the time. Should I do cardio or should I lift weights? Should I train heavy or should I train light reps? Mate, do it all. Like, you need to train from rep ranges like 3 to 15. Like, there are no good or bad. There's what's right for your goals. And same with cardio. Like, do both. It's not just about doing only cardio or doing only weights. Like, do both. Like me, I run, I'm doing half marathons and I weight train. Like, it does not mean that you cannot do the other. It depends on what your goal is. If I wanted to get freaky big, freaky muscular, maybe I wouldn't run because I need to put more of my energy, more of my time investment into building muscle at the gym. But I actually did all that before, which is why I'm able to maintain it. Stop looking at people and being like, oh, look at their body. What are they doing now? I'm going to do that. Okay, so what did they do before? Because what they're doing now isn't how they got it. I have so many people asking me, what am I doing for my legs? What am I doing for, like, because my legs are pretty developed. Well, I actually hardly train my legs. I run. I do maybe a couple of exercises here and there, but I'm maintaining what I already built. Maybe ask me what I used to do. Now,
yeah, you won't see that a lot in life, right? Like, people who get extremely wealthy or who are extremely successful, people want to know what they did recently. They never want to know what they were doing when they were broke, and so it's like, people only, what have you done for me lately? And we all have this recency bias, and very few people who are operating from a space of short-term thinking are going to ask questions like, hey, would you describe to me the bulk of your training career that allowed you to develop such killer legs? They're probably coming from a place where they're like, oh, wow, if I just worked out like this girl for two months, I'd look just like her, because I have no idea how exercise even works, right? And all of that is a extension of this, and you hit on it earlier, this inability to think long term, the inability to delay gratification, and the inability to just go slow.
and Insta thoughts, which I like to call them, make it even harder for that because you see people, okay, how do we know that they don't have freaking injections in their ass or they have that padding that they're bringing in and they're just doing these little kickbacks or something? Or maybe they actually trained like a proper person, but they want to sell this, they want to sell that, so they're doing these little exercises. But the biggest thing I really wanted to get you to talk about is this camp thing where there's anti-diet and the anti-diet culture, but there is no real meaning behind what diet means. Like, you can be behind anti-diet culture, but not be anti-diet. There's a complete disparity. And then there are people with this body positivity movement, this health at every size movement. And it's not that one is inherently bad or good. It's just that as soon as you attach yourself to all of these body positivity things, you stop that strong pull for change because all of a sudden, oh, it's okay. I don't need to worry about that. It's like you're giving yourself the okay to not worry about your health, to not worry about actually making changes because you're trying to make an excuse for yourself in a way. So anti-diet culture.
Yeah, I'll try to navigate this with some tact because I do think these are very sensitive topics. And I think that a lot of people want to immediately go at these without nuance because, of course, we love to work out. We love to train. We love to push ourselves. And it's extremely easy to just be like, yeah, and if you fucking don't want to do that, you're lazy. And if you've reached a place where you're confident with your body and your body doesn't look good, then you're full of shit because I have body image issues and I've been on stage. So don't, like, it's very, very important that whenever we unpack these things in particular, that we, use a little bit of nuance. We try to check our own biases at the door. But like, let's first talk about diet culture. And I think that in general, a diet culture and the obsession that people, particularly here in America, have with dieting as a means to look a certain way has really fucked us up because I use this a lot, is that in America, we don't talk about nutrition. We talk about diets. And so people could tell you a million things about the keto diet. They could tell you a million things about gluten. They could tell you everything in the fucking under the sun about GMO, but they have no idea what a calorie is. And so one of the things that I dislike about diet culture is that it does divert the general discussion away from actual nutrition and actual physiology. But one of the things that's happened more recently is the demonization of anybody who's going to use a diet as a means to change their body composition, or this narrative that all diets are inherently harmful and that focusing on losing fat makes you a bad person. And I think that that's pretty unreasonable for anybody who's got, any amount of nuance in the way that they think to go like, wait a minute, wait a minute, wait a minute. You think that diets don't work because they didn't work for you, even though there's plenty of people that they worked for? Like, just because you had a bad experience with something or you struggle with your own weight doesn't mean that, diets as a whole don't work. Sure, they could be better. Sure, they could be less restrictive. We know that. Everybody knows that. And maybe there are better ways, and hopefully in time we'll find better ways. But this idea that like, this is what when I think of the kind of discussion around diet culture now, I think about a group of people saying that wanting to lose fat at all is bad and all diets are bad and any uh you know desire to change your physique is bad. I think that that's a message that in a couple years we'll look back on and go like, oh, that was fucking stupid. How the hell did we get there? Kind of like cigarettes. Like people used to just smoke cigarettes every day and be like, yeah, what was up with that? How come in the 60s and 70s everybody was smoking cigarettes? That was stupid, right? And then we realized, oh, that was bad. And it's like, well, telling everybody under the sun that it's totally okay to be morbidly obese or totally horrible to diet to lose body fat, I think we're gonna look back at that and go, yeah, that was pretty fucking stupid. We were we were off base there. But at the same time, like I try to reframe body positivity away from like, hey, you can be healthy at any size. Like, okay, that doesn't seem particularly true given that we have a plethora of data that would support certain BMIs are at certain levels of body fatness, let me put it to you that way, you're going to see increased risks of, metabolic syndrome, cardiovascular disease, and even cancer. So, you can't tell me that you can be healthy at any size because I don't think that scientifically that's true. But what I would say is I don't think anybody's current state of health or current size should preclude them from working on their body. I think that anybody at any size should be encouraged as all fuck to go to the gym, that the most ripped person in there should give him a fist bump on the way out. I think that to me is like, that's what I want body positivity to mean. It's that everybody gets a seat at the table. Let's collaborate on this. What I want my body to look like and what you want your body to look like, they don't have to be the same thing. We don't have to have the same finished product, but we should all feel totally welcomed and totally like we have a seat at the table when we go to the gym to work on our body. And even if that means, person A is competition level lean and person B is 40 pounds overweight, but they lift weights every day, they love food, and they are confident in how they look, to me that's fine. I like that ain't stressing me out. What stresses me out is when I see people that are morbidly obese, extremely heavy. They have massive levels of adiposity, and we are celebrating these body types as being healthy. When in fact, even though at this point these people might not have any outstanding health conditions, I think that the large majority of people whose job it is to, like doctors and surgeons, for example, they probably would not recommend that you live your life at that body fatness. And again, the idea that you can be healthy at any size is very different from the idea that you should have access and feel comfortable working on your body at any size. And it's the latter of the two that I kind of say, let's give 2 thumbs up to that. And I think fat shaming it can work, but I think just shaming people in general isn't super effective at like leading to behavior change. But straight up, neither is fucking being delusional. Neither is lying to people. So like, again, let's just have a non-charged conversation. But again, I think that diet culture and telling people you need to eat like this, you need to look like this, is what created healthy at any size. They're inextricably connected because they're all part of just this nasty continuum of what people are getting from the internet and how that's, you know, impacting the way they look at themselves and our inability to handle failures. And it's a bunch of shit. It's not as simple as it seems. And I certainly have yet to unpack it fully, and my understanding is very rudimentary, but hopefully that gives you some insights as to how I look at this stuff.
Yeah, completely agree with that. And you said the word continuum, and I'm just like, if anything, it is anything but a continuum. People are either black or white, and everything is in rebellion. It's like, it's just like, there's this continuum of craziness, but the craziness develops on a black or white scale. Like, okay, let's go anti-diet culture. Let's just celebrate all of this stuff. Let's go anti-cardio. Let's celebrate the fuck cardio movement. Let's go anti-keto. Let's go high carb. Let's go anti-veganism. Let's go carnivore. Like,
oh my God.
there is no middle camp for anything. And I'm really into neuroscience at the moment, but you said you can't really shame anyone into changing. And there was a study, I mentioned this before, but it's just so interesting. There was a study, they have linked it into humans as well. It's called the Mario effect, where they're trying to learn the coding and they're coding for the character to do certain things. And every time there's two camps. One camp was every time they got an error code, they said, you lost 5 points. And on the other one, it said, try again. And the people that lost 5 points had a less chance of making it through the whole process, while the ones that said try again had a 68% chance of success versus the others that were at like 32 or something like that. And that's the whole dopamine thing of getting, okay, I need to try again. I'm working on the process. This is good. So body positivity, like I was freaking shredded lean and I didn't have that confidence to be the healthy person that I am now and be as positive as I am now if it wasn't for the actual inner growth. So I don't only take, this is what I wanted to get into next, I don't only take a health first approach, but a mindset first approach, because you can, like, who gives a shit about their health if your mindset isn't in the right place? And people are too busy trying to run away from fear, run away from pain, that they're not checking in with themselves. They're clinging to things out of a state of fear versus desire to be a certain person. And you touched on this before with the extreme ownership and not being delusional, and actually like recognizing where you are now and where you desire to be and attaching something of health and of benefit to it. And you work with a lot of like mothers and like family people. So how can you relate that to the general working mom and someone that can actually make this as a lifestyle change, make it their identity and take ownership for the family, not and put themselves first so the family benefits?
I literally recorded a podcast just previous to this where I was going over 9 reasons why women struggle with their fitness goals. And one of the reasons was I have found in 10 years of doing this that women who are in a matriarchal role or who are professionals or who are very busy have a tendency to pour from an empty cup much more so than men, and that they will put their children first, their spouse first, their work first, all of their extracurricular stuff first. And in talking with these women over the years and years, I just kept seeing the same scenario pop up. And so many of my clients come to mind where I was like, why is it that you have such a hard time getting to your workouts? Why is it that you have such a hard time adhering to the plan and sticking to the diet, but you will bend over backwards for friends, family, loved ones, work, professional stuff? And I started asking this question like, okay, what is the most important thing to you? And they all go, my family, my kids, everything. So, okay, well, is it going to be better in the long term for your family if you're healthy? Yes. Okay. Well, do you think your kids and your husband want you to make it to your workouts? Yes. Okay. Do you think that your kids and your husband and your grandkids that are on the way or that have just been born want you to stick around for a really long time? Yes. Okay. Then you need to put yourself first, even if it's just for 1 hour, 3 days a week, or even if it's just for that 2 hours on Sunday that you meal prep, and kind of letting these people know who operate from this place of everybody matters more than me, that as your coach, it is my job to remind you that even if that's true, those people need you healthy. They want you healthy and they want you here for the long run. So if you're not going to do it for you, can you do it for them? And all of a sudden you get this big shift of like, wow, this is, yeah, I totally can. And I don't know why it is that I found this to be more prevalent with women. It might be like a cultural or social thing here in America. I don't know if it's the same over there. I'm sure it is, because I think it's deeply ingrained in the female genetic code to just nurture, nurture, nurture. And being able to let those people know you will nurture other people better when you nurture yourself first. And that means your health, that means your strength, that means your nutrition have to be important to you, because you'll be a better mom, you'll be a better partner, you'll be a better professional, you'll be a better grandma if you take care of yourself. And you don't want to get to a point in your life where you go, oh man, I took care of everybody else and now I'm suffering serious health complications and I can't enjoy my life. And I know that's like a little bit bleak, but I think one of the ways that I try to communicate and break through to the moms and the busy women that I work with is just letting them know you fucking matter and your goals matter and your health matters. And if you don't put it first, all the other stuff that you think matters more is going to come crashing down, because these people rely on a healthy, functional version of you. And if you keep kicking the can down the road, you're going to pay for it, and then they're going to pay for it too. So take care of yourself, if not for you, but for them.
How have you been able to see that once they take that advice on board and put themselves first, how have you been able to actually, what has been their feedback? Like, what has been that positive thing that is going to be for anyone out there that's still like, oh my God, I really want to do this. I need to fill my cup because I see the benefit of it, but they still find it hard because, hey, go back to those thick cables. What is the driving force, and what can they actually physically do? What can they in action now with their food, especially when, oh, I need to cook for the family, I need to cook for the kids? How can they actually get the whole family involved? How can they feel the benefits along the way and remind themselves that it's for their kids when they're so entrained into those thick cables?
Again, it's highly individualized. It's very nuanced. It depends on the person. But the things that we're looking for to circle the wagons here, what are the smallest things that we can do that have the most leverage? Like, what are the smallest behaviors that we can implement that will give you the greatest return? So can you commit to me that you're going to eat protein at every meal? Yes, I can do that. Hell yeah. That's way better than not eating any protein all day. Can you commit to me that you're going to go on a walk every night with your kids and your husband? Hell yes, that's awesome. You're getting the family involved. Finding small actionable habits. And then what you'll see is when they implement them, if you stay on top of it and you do your job as a coach, they'll start saying, oh, I have so much better energy today. And you go, well, why do you think that is? Oh, I got good sleep last night and I went on a walk before bed and I ate pretty good. And you go, that's what I'm talking about. Cool. Let's keep it going. And it's, to me, it all comes down to small actionable habits with a tremendous amount of leverage when we're talking about working with super stressed people. Because the last thing you want to do to a mom is be like, hey, you want to join a camp that really is going to fuck you up? You should try keto and CrossFit. Like you don't want to do that. And that, again, it circles the wagons. Unfortunately, a lot of people think those are the only answers because those are the loudest voices. And people like you and I have a responsibility as people who get how this shit works to amplify our voices by collaborating, working together, and putting our message out there.
That's the most important thing. Like, that people are so hesitant to make a change because they see these big camps as the only thing to do. Oh, I need boot camp. Oh, I need to do HIIT every day. They only see all in, all out. They're not. There's this lady I see constantly asking the same questions in every single group she pops up on my Facebook. I'm like, dude, just do what you can. We already had this talk. Like, I actually reached out to you to help you. And she's like, oh, what's the best split for this? She literally said to me, she can only make it to the gym 3 times a week. But to her, that wasn't enough. She needed to do all this. It's like, start small. Start from there. And I know you need to go soon as well. So I'm trying to wrap it up. But this is the most important thing to take away. You don't need to go all in to see any results. You need to see what you can do now. It's about manageable, not perfect. What is manageable for you right now? Stay consistent with that and keep laying those bricks until it becomes second nature, and keep checking in with yourself. We don't realize we're so hyper focused on, oh, I hate the way I look, oh, I have these little fat rolls I want to get rid of, I need to get rid of this stomach, my stomach's bloated, I don't like the weight on the scale, we keep stepping on the scale, but we don't check in with, my energy is really good today. I got to play with the kids tonight and I wasn't freaking stuffed from bloody work and doing all these chores. Like, check in with yourself, check in with things outside of the scale, outside of your obsession with what's going on with your stomach. Because once you focus on health and mindset first and you take that long approach, everything else follows after that. A healthy body is a responsive body.
That's anyway, right.
So Danny needs to rush. So that was such a great conversation. We covered so many topics.
We did, and I appreciate you having me on. I always like talking to my friends in other countries because accents are one of my favorite things. But yeah, you're fitting me in between two clients, and I appreciate you making the time, and I really enjoyed the discussion.
If you had to leave everybody with one, what would you say? One big thing.
I tweeted this today, and it was just something that I came up with, and it's that if you can't trust the process, you can't expect the progress. And so that's what I'm going to leave you with. If you can't trust the process, don't expect the progress. Play the long game in whatever the fuck it is you're trying to do in life, whether it's your fitness, your relationships, your business, whatever. Look at the long game, play the long game, be patient, and let the power of compound interest do the work.
I will also say you have to read Atomic Habits because there were so many allusions to that book and I love it.
It's one of my favorites.
I'm going to put your links down below. Is there anything else you want me to link aside from your Facebook?
No, my Instagram and my podcast would be awesome.
Instagram. Yes, I will do that. And thank you so much for coming on. I'm actually going to name the episode now. You can't expect the progress without enjoying the process.
If you can't trust the process, don't expect the progress.
I'm going to write that down now. I will see you on the other side, and thank you for coming on.
Yes, enjoy your day. Thanks for having me. Bye.
Bye.